A billionaire is taken aback when his pregnant wife shows up with a CEO while he is displaying his mistress in public. A silence envelops the magnificent ballroom, with crystal chandeliers mirroring the palpable tension that fills the atmosphere. At the heart of the scene is Victor Darnell, a self-made millionaire clad in a sharp tuxedo, confidently presenting his sophisticated mistress to the world. Guests are taken aback by this bold exhibition, murmuring in hushed corners. Suddenly the doors swing open, and a very pregnant young woman steps in, Jonathan's wife Scarlett. But that's not the only surprise. Beside her stands the enigmatic billionaire, CO, Damien Ashford, who appears resolute in his commitment to safeguard her at any price. The impending scandal is set to unfold, leaving no one in the room untouched by its consequences. The Crystal Renaissance Hotel featured one of the largest and most luxurious ballrooms in the city, its vast marble floors shining with a mirror-like brilliance. Flower arrangements flown in from Amsterdam filled the air with subtle fragrances of tulips and lilies. Numerous guests, adorned in their most elegant outfits, socialized, exchanging air kisses and courteous remarks regarding stock prices, private yachts, and forthcoming investment prospects. The annual Bright Futures Gala took place, a significant event for the city's elite, recognized for generating millions of dollars to support the education of underprivileged children. Victor Darnell, the evening's most awaited host, was a figure of impressive height and authoritative presence. He had climbed the ranks. Not so long ago, he was just another junior executive at Ambertech. Some attributed his rise to a stroke of luck, while others claimed it was cunning manipulation, as he acquired a failing software startup for mere pennies and transformed it into a digital powerhouse. By the time he reached 35, Jonathan's net worth had skyrocketed into the nine-figure range. Despite his achievements, an air of arrogance seemed to linger around him. This evening, it was prominently showcased. Amidst the opulent ambiance of shimmering chandeliers and a carefully selected orchestra performing Mozart, he made his entrance onto the stage, accompanied by the striking brunette, Vivian Holt. Whispers had spread about her for months. Some claimed she had taken on the role of his new marketing director. Some suggested she was an enigmatic socialite hailing from Europe. The reality, as the sly glimmer in Jonathan's eye suggested, was much more shocking. Cassandra donned a striking crimson gown that accentuated her every curve, prompting murmurs among the spectators. It was a bold assertion, particularly given that everyone was aware Jonathan was a married man. However, his wife, Isabel Darnell, was notably missing. Jonathan tapped the microphone, his voice resonating effortlessly above the soft chatter of the crowd. Esteemed guests, we appreciate your presence at the Bright Futures Gala. An extraordinary evening awaits you, featuring an exhilarating announcement later tonight. We invite you to revel in the celebrations and keep in mind that every dollar contributed this evening is dedicated to uplifting our future generations. He extended his arm to Cassandra, guiding her down the steps where they were promptly welcomed by the most influential figures in the city. Robert King, the CEO of Hartford Industries, gave Jonathan a friendly clap on the shoulder and raised an eyebrow at Cassandra. "Well, you certainly don't waste time, Jonathan," James joked, half under his breath, but loud enough for a few eavesdroppers to catch the remark. Jonathan merely smirked. He relished the attention, even when it brushed against the boundaries of propriety. He flourished amidst speculation and envy. Unbeknownst to him, his meticulously crafted performance was on the verge of being disrupted in ways he could never have foreseen. Scarlett, his wife who was 6 months pregnant, was already on her way, accompanied by none other than Damien Ashford, the reclusive billionaire CEO rumored to be involved in discreet, philanthropic projects. Jonathan may have believed he was the one directing this night, yet in reality, fate and karma were intertwining, and the performance was poised to spiral beyond his grasp. Hours prior to the gala, Isabel Darnell occupied the living room of their expansive estate, located on the city's outskirts. The estate stood as a symbol of Jonathan's achievements: grand pillars, a serpentine driveway, and meticulously maintained lawns worthy of royalty. Scarlett, however, experienced none of the familiar solace she once found in the breezy rooms and sun-drenched gardens. At 6 months pregnant, she observed Jonathan's slow withdrawal. The man who once tenderly rubbed her feet and brought her midnight snacks now seldom shared the same bed. He frequently found himself occupied with business dinners that extended into the early morning hours. Scarlett attempted to justify her situation, convinced it was merely a temporary response to demanding work obligations, yet the contradictory signs had become unmistakable. Scarlett had originally intended to forego the Bright Futures Gala. She felt exhausted, both emotionally and physically, and the pregnancy hormones intensified her stress. An unforeseen phone call altered the course of events entirely. The message originated from Carmen Reyes, a dear childhood friend of hers who also served as a legal advisor at Jonathan's company. Natalie's voice quivered as she implored Scarlett to join the gala. "Scarlett, I hope this doesn't cause you any distress, but Jonathan intends to bring a guest tonight, someone he has been involved with." "You have to be there," Natalie whispered, her voice trembling with fear of the repercussions that might follow her words. Scarlett felt her heart race as she listened, her hand moving instinctively to her belly. She had harbored suspicions about Jonathan's fidelity for some time, but the public revelation of it felt overwhelmingly humiliating to contemplate. A tumult of feelings, anger, hurt, and betrayal washed over her. She ended the call without a word, tears welling in her eyes. For the next hour, Scarlett remained gazing out the window of her opulent living room. The setting sun bathed the rose bushes Jonathan had once planted in a warm golden light, a reminder of his romantic intentions. How things have transformed. She tightened her fist against the glass, the sting of betrayal coursing through her veins. At that moment, her butler, Bernard, subtly cleared his throat to signal the arrival of a visitor. Startled, Scarlett glanced over to see Damien Ashford himself entering her home. Ethan's presence was surprising, yet reassuring. He had a history with them. He had once mentored Jonathan and in turn developed a friendship with Scarlett. However, as time passed, Ethan distanced himself from the spotlight, seldom making public appearances. "Scarlett," he said gently, worry evident on his face, "I came across some troubling news regarding Jonathan. I would like to assist you." She found it impossible to conceal her tears. "He is engaging in an affair. This evening, in a public setting. I am truly astonished that he would treat me this way, particularly at this moment." Ethan paused for a moment, then softly rested his hand on her shoulder. "It's important to have support during this time. If you choose to come, I will be there with you. I wholeheartedly support you." Scarlett swallowed hard, her determination solidifying. She would no longer be the obedient wife who remained silent. If Jonathan intended to showcase his mistress to the city's elite, she would confront him directly, accompanied by others. In just 2 hours, Scarlett adorned herself in a breathtaking midnight blue maternity gown. She looked at her reflection, observing the luminous glow that pregnancy and a deep sense of determination bestowed upon her. Power coursed through her veins. As she entered Ethan's elegant black Bentley, they made their way to the gala, unaware that their arrival would trigger a series of events that would alter their lives forever. Vivian Holt was well acquainted with the charm of affluence and influence. Born as Cassie Marsh in a humble suburb outside London, she discovered early on how swiftly fortune could shift away from you. When she was 12, her father lost his job. Her mother faced challenges due to a long-term illness. Poverty arrived at their doorstep, accompanied by a sense of desperation. In that moment, Cassandra made a solemn vow to never feel powerless again. In her late teens, she uncovered her innate talents, a brilliant intellect, insightful intuition, and striking beauty. At the age of 20, she found herself in relationships with older, accomplished men. Every relationship enhanced her position in life, with each man imparting important lessons about business, networking, and influence. Cassandra quickly understood that in the realm of high society, the true currency extended beyond mere wealth. It lay in the possession of secrets. Thus, she mastered the art of revealing them. Following a series of relationships that concluded successfully, she focused her attention on exploring the world through international travel. She attended elite events in Monaco, Hong Kong, and Dubai. Ultimately, she arrived in the United States, where she connected with real estate magnate Julian Westbrook in New York, followed by a shipping tycoon in Los Angeles. Nonetheless, these matters served as important milestones. Cassandra sought a jackpot, a person she could connect with for the long haul, someone whose desire for status mirrored her own ambition. She encountered Victor Darnell at a private investor conference held in San Francisco. She was not swayed solely by his attractive appearance. What captivated her was his unyielding ambition and the manner in which he held the attention of everyone in the room. Their flirtation commenced subtly, with lengthy conversations in hotel bars and shared rides to lavish dinners. Jonathan was both bold and exceptionally intelligent, a mix that captivated her. He wasn't merely wealthy, he was on the brink of ascending into the highest tiers of global affluence. In him, she recognized a chance and a soul that resonated with her own. Jonathan, weary of his seemingly flawless marriage, found himself captivated by Cassandra's boldness and elegance. He enjoyed how she could discuss the stock market and global politics one moment, then captivate an entire table of VIPs the next. However, Cassandra aspired to more than merely being a secret mistress. She craved the spotlight, sought influence, and desired to stand alongside the city's elite rather than remain in the shadows of luxury hotels. When Jonathan asked her to join him at the Bright Futures Gala, she accepted immediately. He seemed to take pride in the idea that it would be their grand debut as a power couple, yet he never addressed how he intended to handle the controversy of still being married to Scarlett. Cassandra, for her part, delighted in the idea of being esteemed by the city's most powerful figures. She had a feeling that Jonathan could soon suggest an even more profitable deal. Cassandra Munro stood beside Jonathan on stage, feeling as though she had finally reached her destination. The silence of shocked spectators only bolstered her confidence. She was resolute in her intention to leverage this night to elevate her position within the social hierarchy. What she didn't foresee was the unexpected entrance of the very woman whose position she sought to take, accompanied by none other than one of the rare men in this world capable of eclipsing Victor Darnell. Long before Victor Darnell wore custom-tailored suits and flashed million-dollar smiles for the cameras, he was just John from the outskirts of Oklahoma City. Born to two diligent middle-class parents, Jonathan displayed a natural talent for negotiation from a young age. He was the kid who transformed a simple lemonade stand into a mini-franchise by convincing his classmates to join in for a share of the profits. With the help of scholarships and part-time jobs, Jonathan gained admission to a respected business school, where his ambition solidified into a focused determination. He participated in every competition, became a member of every student business club, and networked with unwavering determination. His peers held him in high regard, yet there were murmurs among them suggesting that his approach was overly aggressive and excessively cutthroat. Upon completing his college education, he secured an entry-level role at Ambratech, a mid-sized technology company. His superiors recognized his unwavering energy and assigned him to projects that demanded swift turnarounds and innovative solutions. Throughout the years, Jonathan built a small yet impressive network of mentors. Damian Ashford was among them, working as a venture capitalist at that time. Ethan saw Jonathan's potential and frequently brought him into high-stakes meetings, guiding him in the subtleties of reading a room, convincing investors, and navigating tricky situations. As Jonathan rose, his ego soared alongside him. A significant turning point occurred when he received a tip regarding a struggling startup focused on machine learning software for e-commerce. While other investors perceived a risky proposition, Jonathan recognized a gold mine. He gathered funds through a combination of his personal savings and contributions from smaller investors, acquiring the startup for a small portion of its potential value. In the following years, Jonathan shifted the company's focus to create sophisticated consumer analytics systems. Fortune beamed, and the market followed suit. Contracts flowed in from prominent retailers across the globe. Jonathan's net worth soared dramatically. Extravagant events, luxurious travels, and premier real estate quickly ensued. Scarlett did as well. They encountered each other during a gala where she served as a PR consultant, and Jonathan delivered the keynote address. Her warmth and authentic spirit pierced through Jonathan's tough exterior of ambition. They fell in love swiftly, and even Damian Ashford, who had become cautious of Jonathan's forceful methods, was moved by the way Scarlett appeared to soften him. For a while, Jonathan seemed truly content. The wedding was a lavish affair, sophisticated, private, and the subject of much media buzz. Yet, the success continued to ignite Jonathan's desire. He immersed himself further into business expansions, securing deals in Asia and the Middle East, seldom returning home before midnight. Over time, the love he once bestowed upon Scarlett diminished, giving way to a sense of unease and discontent. He started to feel bitterness towards her gentle nudges to find equilibrium between work and home life, perceiving them as limitations on his relentless rise. Upon Vivian Holt's arrival in his life, her shrewd ambition aligned perfectly with his. Their connection transformed into a captivating refuge from the mundane life he believed was restraining him. At the Bright Futures Gala, Jonathan was poised to make a statement alongside Cassandra, yet the recollection of the man he used to be, diligent, intelligent, and deeply affectionate, still glimmered in his gaze. The inquiry revolved around the significance of that flicker of conscience when he confronted the arrival of his pregnant wife, alongside the mentor he had once revered. As Scarlett navigated the tense drive to the Crystal Renaissance Hotel, she took a deep breath. Determined to maintain her composure, she would not allow herself to appear disheveled. She aimed to present herself as composed, poised, and even regal. For an extended period, she had assumed the role of the understanding spouse, extending compassion and countless opportunities. This evening would stand apart. Seated beside her in the sleek Bentley, Damien Ashford asked softly, "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Facing Jonathan in front of the crowd will be challenging. Scarlett squared her shoulders, her hands resting gently over her burgeoning belly. "I must do this. I cannot allow him to believe he can simply showcase his affair without facing any consequences. If I conceal myself, he triumphs. I refuse to remain a passive observer in my own existence." She took an envelope from her clutch, a manila file brimming with papers. This was her hidden advantage, carefully assembled over the last month. As suspicions regarding Jonathan started to arise, she engaged a private investigator not only to gather evidence of his infidelity, but also to probe further into his business transactions. The results, received just days ago, left her in a state of disbelief. Deceptive transactions, hidden shell corporations, and dubious offshore accounts. Jonathan was teetering on the brink of legality. If these details were to become public, it could lead to his downfall. Scarlett, however, had no plans to bring about his downfall just yet. She simply aimed to face him with the understanding that she was not naive. Jonathan was gravely mistaken if he believed he could quietly divorce her later and simply push her aside. This served as her insurance policy, safeguarding both herself and their unborn child. Ethan looked at the file, identifying the official seals and financial statements. His expression became serious. "This matter is of great importance. If the SEC or any law enforcement agency were to come across these documents—" Scarlett pursed her lips. "I know. However, it is the sole leverage at my disposal. I have no intention of going public unless he compels me to do so. At last, he will confront the repercussions of his choices." Ethan nodded, a mixture of admiration and concern evident on his face. He had once viewed Jonathan as a promising figure, a person filled with potential who could transform the world for the better. Now, that same man found himself on the brink of scandal and the looming threat of imprisonment. Nevertheless, Ethan's foremost allegiance was to Scarlett and the unborn child she bore. He quietly wished that the confrontation tonight could somehow restore Jonathan's sense of decency. Upon arriving at the hotel's entrance, the air was filled with the rapid clicks of paparazzi cameras. They anticipated capturing images of celebrities and influencers, but the sight of Damien Ashford emerging with Jonathan's visibly pregnant wife sent the crowd into a frenzy. Microphones were extended, cameras clicked, and the air was filled with shouted questions. Scarlett inhaled deeply one final time, intertwined her fingers with Ethan's, and allowed him to lead her up the red carpet. As she stepped into the lobby, she could almost sense the palpable tension surrounding her. Eyes flickered toward her, and hushed whispers began to circulate. Scarlett's heart raced, yet her eyes held a determined intensity. Soon she would confront Jonathan and his mistress, and when that moment came, she was determined to hold her ground, equipped with the truth and a strategy to restore her dignity. Damien Ashford was a name spoken of in hushed tones within the elite circles of finance and business. 10 years prior, his investment firm, Blackwell Capital, made waves in the tech industry by backing innovative startups, including those that transformed contemporary e-commerce and artificial intelligence. Ethan's remarkable ability to identify winners established him as a legend. Nevertheless, an unexpected tragedy, the fatal car accident of his younger sister, drove him into isolation. He declared a complete withdrawal from public life, shifting his focus to charitable endeavors in distant parts of the world. His presence at the Bright Futures Gala took everyone by surprise, particularly in the capacity of guardian to Isabel Darnell. Whispers spread among the guests. Were he and Scarlett in a romantic relationship? Could this suggest a significant business partnership? Some remembered that Ethan had previously served as Jonathan's mentor, which only intensified the ongoing intrigue. As Ethan stepped into the ballroom, he instantly drew everyone's gaze. Tall, lean, and impeccably dressed, his subtle charm stood in stark contrast to Jonathan's ostentatious arrogance. Jonathan exuded the confidence of newfound wealth, whereas Ethan represented timeless elegance. He led Scarlett through the throng, graciously dismissing inquiries from reporters, concentrating entirely on her welfare. Scarlett appreciated his presence. Amidst the tumult of stares and whispers, she sensed a tranquility radiating from him. Her previous anxiety faded away, giving way to a strong sense of determination. Together they conveyed a striking image of unity, the expectant wife wronged by her husband, protected by a formidable ally. Across the ballroom, Jonathan and Cassandra were deep in conversation with Robert King and several prominent investors. As Jonathan noticed Scarlett arriving with Ethan, his assured smile wavered. For a brief moment, a glimmer of panic appeared in his eyes. He bounced back swiftly, forcing a tight smile, yet Cassandra sensed the rigidity in his arm as he held her elbow. "Ethan is here?" Jonathan whispered, his voice tense. "Why on earth would he?" Cassandra arched an eyebrow. "Who is he to you?" "My former mentor," Jonathan replied quietly. "And that's my wife with him." Ethan caught Jonathan's eye from across the room, offering a courteous nod that hinted at his discontent. Scarlett also raised her chin with determination, clearly planning to confront the man who had betrayed her. Cassandra swiftly understood the seriousness of the situation. If Damien Ashford was involved, this was certainly more than just a simple marital spat. Jonathan breathed out, dispelling the surprise. He rested a possessive hand on Cassandra's waist and, with an air of feigned indifference, guided her toward the newly arrived duo. A silence enveloped the spectators. The four were positioned close together, an unspoken storm of tension crackling in the atmosphere. Jonathan, with a forced smile, was the first to speak. "Well, Scarlett, I wasn't aware you would be joining us this evening." His eyes flicked to Ethan before returning to her. "And you've brought along quite an esteemed companion." Scarlett's demeanor remained composed, though frosty. "Hello, Jonathan. I hope I'm not intruding on your big night." In that moment, Ethan offered a subtle nod to Scarlett, signaling his unwavering support for her, regardless of what was to come. The stage was thus prepared for a confrontation that would challenge the very core of Jonathan's meticulously crafted existence. Observers felt the tension in the air, akin to spectators in an arena, as they witnessed Victor Darnell and his pregnant wife face each other, each backed by their loyal companions. In the background, the gala's string quartet played a piece that felt strangely out of place amid the tension permeating every corner of the ballroom. Scarlett felt her pulse race as she locked eyes with Jonathan. Memories of their wedding day, quiet nights by the fireplace, and the moment they learned she was pregnant surged through her mind like tidal waves. Yet the man before her now resembled a stranger more than her once loving husband. Jonathan managed to put on a charming grin. "Scarlett, you look radiant. It's quite a surprise to find you here. I assumed you were taking it easy at home." His effort at casual conversation was nearly amusing, yet Cassandra, her arms encircling his, interjected. "Jonathan asked me to assist him in hosting. After all, it's an important night for the Bright Futures Foundation, and I'm deeply passionate about philanthropy." Her overly sweet tone only intensified Scarlett's frustration. She felt her nails dig into her palms, but she maintained a calm voice. "How kind of you, Cassandra. I'm certain your interest in Jonathan's matters extends past mere philanthropy." A whisper circulated among the onlookers. Cassandra tensed, her eyes gleaming with intensity. Jonathan's smile disappeared, giving way to a menacing glare. However, if he believed Scarlett would shrink back from that gaze, he was wrong. Scarlett continued, now addressing Jonathan directly. "I've come here because I deserve to see who you're parading around, and also to let you know that neither I nor our child will be cast aside." Beside her, Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her arm. He spoke, his voice steady yet commanding. "Jonathan, I feel let down. This is not the individual I once guided. This public humiliation of your wife is unworthy of you, unworthy of everything we strive for." Jonathan's jaw tightened. Something in Ethan's words resonated, igniting a brief moment of guilt before his expression solidified once more. He surveyed the crowd, aware that preserving his image was of utmost importance. "I believe we ought to carry on this discussion in private," Jonathan whispered, lowering his voice. "Scarlett, Ethan, let's step out onto the terrace." The onlookers parted like the Red Sea as the four of them, accompanied by a few of the most inquisitive spectators, made their way toward the ornate double doors leading outside. A silence enveloped the main ballroom, yet the murmurs and hurried messages were bound to persist in its aftermath. On the terrace, the city lights sparkled in the distance, creating a striking contrast to the encroaching darkness surrounding them. A soft breeze wafted through, yet it offered scant comfort against the rising tension. Jonathan confronted Scarlett, his tone revealing his frustration. "Why bring Ethan here? Why humiliate me in front of everyone?" Scarlett's eyes filled with tears, yet her voice stayed strong. "Humiliate you? You are the one showcasing a mistress while I am carrying your child. Did you honestly believe I would remain silent?" Cassandra tried to step in, but Ethan quieted her with a sharp look. He then addressed Jonathan. "If you have any respect left for Scarlett, you'll handle this situation with dignity." For a moment, Jonathan's shoulders sagged, a flicker of remorse crossing his face. But Cassandra took his arm, her presence a reminder of the path he had chosen. Caught between guilt and pride, Jonathan found himself at a crossroads with the entire city, and most importantly Scarlett, waiting to see which side he would take. Ultimately, the confrontation on the terrace was mercifully brief. Cassandra assumed the role of outraged girlfriend, though many sensed her anger derived more from the threat to her own ambitions than from genuine love for Jonathan. Scarlett, on the verge of tears, turned away, determined not to reveal her vulnerability to the mistress. Ethan guided her from the terrace, providing a graceful escape from a profoundly undignified circumstance. As they re-entered the ballroom, they were met with a surge of inquisitive gazes and muted whispers. Scarlett's heart raced with a blend of anger, sorrow, and an unexpected resolve she had never realized she had. She held on to Ethan's arm, thankful for his steadfast presence. Jonathan and Cassandra lingered on the terrace, the strain between them palpable. Cassandra hissed, feeling utterly humiliated. "How could you not warn me that your wife would be here, pregnant no less, and with Damien Ashford of all people?" Jonathan ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. I had no idea Scarlett was coming. Trust me, this wasn't what I intended." He shot a glare at Cassandra, briefly reconsidering his choices. "And let's not overlook the fact that you were the one who pushed for our relationship to be made public." "Well, this is the outcome." Cassandra's eyes narrowed. "So you're placing the blame on me now? Did you notice the way Ethan looked at you? He could ruin you. You better hope he doesn't begin to investigate your finances or your business dealings." A flicker of fear crossed Jonathan's face. Cassandra was correct. If Ethan directed his considerable resources against him, the consequences could be disastrous. With determination, Jonathan straightened his suit, ensuring everything was in place. "Let's avoid drawing attention," he said. "We'll complete our responsibilities here and then discuss our next steps in private." Inside, the gala program continued seamlessly. The MC stepped onto the stage, encouraging donors to contribute to the foundation. The crowd erupted in applause as substantial amounts of money illuminated the digital billboard. Yet, beneath the philanthropic facade, the true drama of the evening captivated everyone's attention. Social media buzzed with photos of Scarlett and Ethan's arrival, igniting scandalous headlines such as CEO Damian Ashford rescues heartbroken wife from Millionaire's affair. Scarlett and Ethan discovered a secluded corner near the refreshment tables. A handful of acquaintances approached with courteous concern, yet the majority maintained a cautious distance. Scarlett accepted a glass of water from a waiter, though she barely sipped it. She felt a chill, despite the warmth enveloping the crowded room. Ethan leaned in, his voice low and meant just for her. "I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself, but I'm concerned about how stressed you are. Perhaps we should consider leaving." Scarlett paused, feeling emotionally exhausted, but a part of her resisted the notion of backing down. "I must demonstrate to him that he cannot intimidate me into leaving." She decided to remain a little longer, at least until the main announcements concluded. Ethan nodded, acknowledging her choice. In reality, he found himself admiring her more than ever. A flicker of guilt tugged at his conscience. He had played a part in Jonathan's ascent, never imagining how power could twist him. Now, Ethan quietly vowed to be Scarlett's protector against any tempests Jonathan might bring forth. As the gala progressed, a palpable sense of anticipation enveloped the guests. They speculated whether Scarlett would leave in tears or maintain her composure amidst the mounting pressure. Would Jonathan Starr face consequences for his audacious act of infidelity, or would he navigate the situation unscathed, supported by his wealth and influence? Only time, and possibly Damian Ashford's next action, would reveal the outcome. In the days that followed the gala, rumors circulated like a storm. Some tabloids ran dramatic headlines about a billionaire showdown, while high society gossip columns featured anonymous sources gleefully sharing details about Jonathan's bold, public reveal of Cassandra. Scarlett, though embarrassed, found comfort in the wave of supportive messages she received from old friends and even strangers who understood her situation. Amid the turmoil, a small group of unexpected allies gathered to support Scarlett. Carmen Reyes, Jonathan's childhood friend and legal advisor, was the first to take action. Following her initial warning call, Natalie intensified her support. She organized a meeting for Scarlett with leading divorce attorneys as a precaution and assisted in gathering additional evidence regarding Jonathan's dubious business practices. If it came to a legal battle, Scarlett would be fully prepared. Then there was Victoria Moreau, an elegant philanthropist who had served as a mentor to Scarlett early in her PR career. Marianne had always appreciated Scarlett's warmth and commitment to charitable causes. Deeply offended by Jonathan's public disrespect, Marianne leveraged her influence within social circles to garner moral support. She made certain that whenever Jonathan attempted to portray Scarlett as unstable or jealous, he encountered strong disapproval from prominent figures in the community. However, the most unexpected ally turned out to be Robert King, the CEO, who had previously been Jonathan's confidant. After witnessing Jonathan's public humiliation of Scarlett, James re-evaluated their friendship. He contacted Ethan, voicing his disbelief at Jonathan's behavior and suggesting that he could help connect Scarlett with financial experts who could discreetly assess Jonathan's holdings, ensuring that Scarlett's rights would be safeguarded if she decided to file for separation. Scarlett felt a surge of gratitude in response to this outpouring of support. Although she had previously dreaded the thought of feeling isolated and powerless during her pregnancy, she now discovered herself surrounded by a supportive and resourceful group of friends. She soon understood that her situation was not as vulnerable as Jonathan might have believed. In the meantime, Ethan kept in touch regularly. He visited Scarlett at her estate, inquiring about her emotional well-being and that of the unborn child. His steady presence offered a source of comfort in Scarlett's life, despite the whispers of scandal that trailed them. Certain tabloids hinted at an affair, depicting Ethan as the gallant figure rescuing a millionaire's wife. Scarlett decided to disregard the rumors. She had faith that Ethan's motives were solely protective and altruistic. He was a man committed to correcting injustices. Jonathan's response to the burgeoning alliance was steeped in both anger and paranoia. Cassandra stoked his fears, cautioning him that Scarlett was amassing legal leverage. In turn, he began making late-night calls to lawyers, sifting through finances to hide any questionable activities, and initiating a private investigation to uncover who might be supplying Scarlett with information. Despite Jonathan's efforts to regain control, it felt as though everything was slipping away from him. Whenever he attempted to stage a successful public appearance alongside Cassandra, the media would inevitably shift the focus to Scarlett's dignity and Ethan's philanthropic endeavors. This left investors feeling increasingly uneasy. Sensing the turmoil could affect Jonathan's future business deals, tensions escalated behind the scenes. The question now was not if there would be a reckoning, but when and who, in the end, would hold the decisive power when it all came crashing down. For Victor Darnell, the initial sign of impending trouble came in the shape of a brief letter from the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. It asked for documents related to several offshore accounts that Jonathan had mistakenly thought were concealed behind layers of shell corporations. Someone, somewhere, had alerted the authorities, although he couldn't ascertain who it was. He had his suspicions about Ethan and even Scarlett's friend Natalie. His anxiety intensified, leading to restless nights filled with urgent phone calls to his legal team. As if the SEC inquiry wasn't challenging enough, Jonathan's relationship with Cassandra was deteriorating. She had not anticipated becoming involved with a man facing scrutiny whose wealth could be at risk if the claims proved true. She began to skip their planned dinner dates, claiming pressing business matters. The once vibrant connection between them grew strained, with each blaming the other for betrayal. Cassandra suggested that she could always sever ties and leave if Jonathan's empire began to falter. Faced with an impending legal crisis and a mistress growing increasingly impatient, Jonathan's meticulously constructed facade started to crumble. His employees murmured about his unpredictable actions, sudden dismissals of those he considered untrustworthy, last-minute cancellations of impromptu meetings, and a breakdown in front of crucial investors. Meanwhile, Scarlett quietly advanced her preparations. With Natalie's help, she compiled every document, text message, and photograph relevant to Jonathan's misconduct, both personal and professional. She felt torn. Part of her wanted to expose him fully, to see him answer for the betrayal he'd inflicted. Another part, however, recalled the man she had once loved. She understood that completely destroying him would lead to heartbreak for her child, who deserved a father untainted by scandal and incarceration. Yet, self-preservation remained the priority. Scarlett directed her legal team to ready a sealed divorce filing. She would only need to proceed if Jonathan declined a fair settlement. The future of her unborn child was her top priority. If Jonathan attempted any deceitful tactics, Scarlett would be poised to retaliate. Ethan, for his part, leveraged his vast network of connections to guarantee Scarlett's safety and tranquility. Investigators loyal to him quietly uncovered additional evidence of Jonathan's wrongdoing, including undeclared funds, rumors of insider trading, and deals tainted by bribery in international markets. Gradually and silently, Ethan constructed a stronghold around Scarlett's interests. He never pushed for complete retribution. He merely held a belief in justice and accountability. Rumors of Jonathan's downfall circulated swiftly. Board members from his company started to doubt his stability, suggesting that a change in leadership could be essential to protect their brand's reputation. This only intensified Jonathan's sense of urgency. He was losing control over his business, the narrative, and the wife he once perceived as meek and accommodating. Late one evening, Cassandra packed her bags, leaving behind a brief note. She stated that she couldn't jeopardize her own future by remaining on a sinking ship. The moment Jonathan discovered her departure, he felt a surge of both betrayal and a peculiar sense of relief. At least she was out of the picture, though it left him alone to confront the storm he had created. As he stood in his now too quiet penthouse, overlooking a city whose bright lights once symbolized his unstoppable rise, Jonathan came to terms with the harsh reality. The empire he constructed through ambition, cunning, and a hint of deceit was crumbling, and Scarlett, whom he had underestimated, was the catalyst for it. Yet he found himself torn between blaming her or himself for the impending downfall. Vivian Holt had vanished from Jonathan's penthouse, but her exit was anything but a retreat. In a luxurious suite at the Halcyon Hotel, She savored champagne while perusing news articles that chronicled Jonathan's declining reputation. She considered her choices. While she relished the excitement of being seen alongside a millionaire, she had never planned to sink with his ship. Cassandra's whole way of life centered on connecting herself with influence and affluence. As Jonathan's future appeared increasingly uncertain, she began a strategic retreat. She was meticulous in ensuring that no compromising evidence remained in his home. Each luxurious handbag and every piece of jewelry he had given her was carefully placed in a safety deposit box rented under an alias. She understood from experience how swiftly assets could be taken during a legal crisis. While Jonathan struggled to prevent his empire from crumbling, Cassandra was already on the lookout for her next opportunity. She had a network of connections among global magnates, executives, and aristocrats who might appreciate her company and strategic social skills. Yet one detail lingered in her mind: the presence of Damien Ashford. His commanding presence and the respect he garnered captivated Cassandra more than she was willing to acknowledge. She remembered how Ethan had looked at her during the gala, his gaze unwavering, seemingly unimpressed and indifferent. Men typically vied for a second glance from Cassandra. Ethan, however, stood out as seemingly unfazed by her allure or Jonathan's antics. She sought to learn more about him. Whispers spread that he possessed old money, connections to philanthropy, and a steadfast moral compass. He was exactly the type of man who seldom fell prey to the manipulations that had benefited Cassandra in the past. Still, she couldn't completely dismiss the notion of earning Ethan's approval. Ultimately, if Jonathan's demise was inevitable, aligning herself with someone like Damien Ashford could serve as her next opportunity. With the help of a discreet connection at Blackwell Capital, Cassandra orchestrated an unplanned encounter at an art auction. She arrived in a chic black dress, exuding an air of effortless sophistication. Upon Ethan's arrival, he hardly acknowledged her presence. His purpose was philanthropic, focused on bidding for a collection of paintings to benefit a local charity. Cassandra tried to engage in light conversation, but Ethan's replies were courteous yet detached. He was fully aware of her identity and the role she had played in Scarlett's heartbreak. Undeterred, Cassandra resolved to use her final approach: sincerity. She approached Ethan after he won a painting and said softly, "I never meant to hurt Scarlett." Jonathan shared a contrasting account of their marriage, claiming it was already finished, that she was a gold digger leveraging his name to ascend the social hierarchy. Ethan's blue eyes sparkled with barely concealed contempt. "So, did you take his word for it? Or is that just the story that aligned with your aspirations?" Her cheeks turned crimson. "I may have been somewhat naive. I recognize that now. However, I am not the villain that others portray me as. I have a genuine passion for philanthropy. Perhaps we could—" Ethan interrupted her with a sharp shake of his head. "If you genuinely want to mend what you've damaged, begin by apologizing to Scarlett and keep your distance from her." He turned on his heel, leaving Cassandra staring after him, her carefully laid plans dissolving in a moment of unmasked rejection. In that instant, she realized Damien Ashford was not just immune to her charms. He was actively repelled by them. For the first time, Cassandra found herself without a straightforward path to the next rung on her social ladder, and though she still possessed her cunning, she sensed that in a world shaped by moral guardians like Ethan, her time as the queen of opportunists might be running out. As the SEC probe intensified, Jonathan confronted the harsh possibility of indictment should further incriminating evidence emerge. Driven by desperation, he sought a private meeting with Damien Ashford. Jonathan hoped that his former mentor might provide a lifeline, or, at the very least, remain silent about any damaging information he might possess. Pride set aside, Jonathan made the call. They convened in a glass-walled conference room at a discreet private club downtown. Jonathan arrived exuding a facade of confidence, yet the dark circles under his eyes revealed a contrasting narrative. Ethan was already present, hands resting on the mahogany table, his expression inscrutable. After a brief moment of charged silence, Jonathan started, "I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me, Ethan." Ethan nodded slightly. "You mentioned it was urgent. I'm all ears." Jonathan cleared his throat, his words stumbling in his dry mouth. "Listen, I understand your disapproval regarding the situation with Scarlett, and I acknowledge my mistakes, but I don't believe I should lose everything. We share a history together. You once referred to me as a protege. Ethan's gaze held firm. That was prior to your departure from ethical business practices and fundamental decency. A wave of anger coursed through Jonathan, yet he suppressed it, striving to maintain a composed tone. I would greatly appreciate your assistance. I am aware of your connections within regulatory bodies. If you could kindly put in a word, it would mean a lot. I can resolve this, offer compensation, whatever you desire. Just please don't allow them to bury me. I have a child on the way. Ethan paused to reflect. His experiences with Jonathan varied from admiration to disappointment, and now lingered on the brink of pity. Do you truly comprehend the impact of your actions on Scarlett, on your unborn child? You flaunted another woman in public while your wife was nurturing your future. Jonathan's gaze fell. His effort to maintain a composed demeanor crumbled. Scarlett was always beyond my reach. I realize that now. But please, Ethan, you understand how this world operates. If the SEC charges me, my reputation will be ruined. I won't be able to support my child as I had intended. Ethan let out a long, controlled breath. I can communicate with specific individuals. This may provide you with an opportunity to be honest regarding your offshore activities, but it does not guarantee that your reputation will be restored. The law remains unchanged. If you decide not to disclose everything, or if you attempt to manipulate the system, you're on your own. Do you understand? Ethan leaned back in his chair, a brief shadow of sadness passing over his face. An apology to Scarlett is also due from you. An equitable arrangement should be made for her and the baby. If you fail to comply, I will take it upon myself to make sure that every piece of evidence reaches the authorities. Although the words hurt, Jonathan understood that this was probably his sole opportunity to maintain a fragment of dignity. I shall. Thank you, Ethan. I assure you that this will remain in my memory. Ethan concluded the seating. Simply uphold that promise. As Jonathan exited the club, he experienced a blend of relief and apprehension. He understood that his journey toward redemption necessitated setting aside his pride, admitting his mistakes, and reconciling with Scarlett. It would be a challenge, particularly for a man whose life had revolved around ambition and an unwillingness to display vulnerability. Yet, in his most challenging moment, Jonathan might still discover a path to preserve what was genuinely important. In the weeks that ensued, Jonathan set out on a challenging path of damage control. As Ethan had cautioned, the SEC's examination persisted despite Jonathan's attempt to engage in a private discussion with the CEO. Nonetheless, a blend of voluntary disclosures, collaboration with investigators, and restitution payments to affected parties provided Jonathan with some leeway. He reached a settlement, steering clear of the most severe consequences of a full-blown criminal trial. Nevertheless, the burden of fines and the blemish on his reputation were considerable. Shareholders demanded a new leadership direction, compelling Jonathan to resign as CEO of his own company. The board acted quickly in their decision. An interim CEO was chosen, a composed and experienced individual from within the company's ranks. Jonathan found himself in an advisory position, purely symbolic and devoid of genuine power. The media reveled in the story of the fallen star, a man once celebrated as a maverick entrepreneur, now engulfed in scandal. Every headline unearthed allusions to his extramarital affair, illustrating a cautionary tale of hubris. Scarlett observed these developments with a mix of emotions. She found it difficult to take pleasure in his downfall, not entirely, as memories of the gentle soul lingered in her mind. She wed the man who had once tucked roses into her hair on a leisurely Sunday afternoon, yet the pain he caused required him to take responsibility. Their relationship was beyond the point of repair. For the sake of their unborn child, Scarlett opted for a path of cautious collaboration. Her legal team commenced divorce proceedings, while also proposing a settlement plan designed to secure financial support for their child, all while preserving Jonathan's dignity. She demanded full custody, allowing Jonathan the opportunity for regular visits, contingent upon his sincere attempts at reform. For weeks, Jonathan wavered, wary that this might be a setup. However, when no additional punitive actions occurred, he understood that Scarlett was genuine. On the day he signed the divorce agreement, he experienced a deep sense of loss, a realization that he had wasted something invaluable. Cassandra's life took a sudden turn as well. After experiencing indifference from Ethan, she momentarily contemplated pursuing other affluent suitors. However, her name was marred by its connection to Jonathan's scandal, resulting in numerous lost opportunities. In an effort to restore her social status, she turned to philanthropic endeavors, ironically relying on the relationships she had formed during her brief time alongside Jonathan. She established a small foundation aimed at promoting children's literacy, which may be perceived as a public relations maneuver. Regardless of its authenticity, it presented her with a chance for rebranding. As time passed, she attracted a small audience, yet she never recaptured the powerful influence she once had in Jonathan's limelight. Damien Ashford's role as Scarlett's ally developed into a more profound connection. At first, it was a bond founded on shared respect and understanding. He appreciated her strength and determination. She valued his steadfast commitment to honor. They dedicated considerable time to discussing philanthropic initiatives, local charities, and creative methods to assist underprivileged communities. Scarlett learned that Ethan's commitment to philanthropy was rooted in a personal tragedy. The untimely passing of his sister had ignited his wish to create a more compassionate world. When Scarlett gave birth to her daughter Grace, Colton Ethan was among the first to visit her in the hospital. He presented a modest bouquet of lilies, standing in sharp contrast to the extravagant gifts from well-wishers. Scarlett felt a deep sense of appreciation for the gesture, and the two enjoyed a serene moment, looking at the newborn child who embodied both Jonathan's heritage and Scarlett's resolve. Grace's tiny eyes, filled with innocence, brought to mind for Scarlett the profound responsibilities that had now taken hold of her life. In the ensuing months, Jonathan endeavored to restore his reputation as a father. During the initial supervised visits, he held Grace gently in his shaking arms, tears welling in his eyes. Scarlett couldn't quite determine if those tears stemmed from guilt or true love, yet she granted him the space to build a connection with their child. He did not seek any additional forgiveness in their marriage. It is possible that he acknowledged the irrevocability of his actions. Instead, he concentrated on restoring a sense of trust with Scarlett, though solely within the framework of co-parenting. Some days flowed more seamlessly than others. Jonathan began therapy, a decision that took him by surprise. During these sessions, he confronted the childhood insecurities that ignited his unwavering pursuit of success. He faced the reality that his pursuit of validation had obscured the emotional turmoil he caused others, especially Scarlett. Advancement was gradual yet evident. Despite being largely viewed as an outcast in the business world, Jonathan discovered opportunities within lesser-known ventures, eager to utilize his expertise. He accepted a consulting position with a tech startup in Seattle, returning to visit Grace on weekends. Scarlett, in contrast, thrived. Released from the confines of an unfulfilling marriage, she wholeheartedly pursued her creative passions. She collaborated with Victoria Moreau to establish a new nonprofit, Project Heart to Heart, dedicated to offering emotional and financial assistance to pregnant women experiencing abandonment or domestic conflict. The cause profoundly connected with Scarlett's personal journey. Contributions surged, supported by backing from prominent individuals and the philanthropic connections of Damien Ashford. Rumors inevitably circulated regarding the closeness between Scarlett and Ethan. Blog sites eagerly speculated on a romance developing between the philanthropic billionaire and the recently divorced mother. For an extended period, Scarlett opted to remain silent about these rumors, partly uncertain of her own emotions. She treasured Ethan's friendship, appreciating the security and insight he provided. However, a new spark gradually ignited, one that seemed authentic, founded on mutual respect instead of intrigue and aspiration. On a crisp autumn day, several months after Grace's arrival, Ethan extended an invitation to Scarlett to explore a new community center he had financed in a low-income neighborhood. As they traversed the corridors, engaged in a conversation about the expansion of childcare facilities and counseling rooms, their hands inadvertently touched. Scarlett glanced up to find a warmth in Ethan's eyes that reflected her own growing affection. In that silent moment, they recognized a growing closeness. They took their time with every decision. Both understood that Scarlett was still recovering from the wounds caused by Jonathan's betrayals. Ethan exhibited patience, permitting Scarlett to dictate the tempo. Their initial official date took place at a quaint Italian bistro, away from the city's flashy venues. They engaged in conversation for hours over homemade pasta, uncovering common values and a mutual desire for a serene, purposeful life devoid of the superficial trappings of wealth. Throughout everything, Scarlett kept her attention on Grace, resolute in her commitment to nurture her daughter with affection and a sense of security. To her surprise, Jonathan sometimes revealed moments of genuine sincerity. One morning, he sent Scarlett a message that said, "Thank you for allowing me to be a part of Grace's life. I will not let her down as I did with you." The words resonated with Scarlett, though they carried a hint of sorrow for what could have been. The public's intrigue with the scandal eventually waned, giving way to fresh headlines about celebrity dramas and political controversies. Scarlett's narrative evolved into a cautionary footnote. The pregnant wife confronted her millionaire husband's bold betrayal and emerged even stronger. In private, her life was not merely a cautionary tale. It was about creating a new journey characterized by compassion, resilience, and hope. The concluding chapter of Jonathan's decline lingered like dust, imparting lessons to all who were part of the journey. Cassandra realized that opportunism has boundaries, particularly when faced with a moral foundation such as Ethan's. Jonathan discovered that success lacking loyalty and integrity ultimately crumbles, while Scarlett embraced her voice, vowing never to be eclipsed by another's ambition or treachery again. As the years passed, Scarlett and Ethan's relationship subtly grew stronger. As Grace took her first steps, Ethan stood by, celebrating with the same delight as Scarlett. He had not taken on the role of Father Jonathan, who still occupied a significant place in Grace's life, yet he offered paternal warmth and guidance in his own understated manner. During community events, the three adults maintained a productive relationship. Jonathan, now stripped of his arrogance, valued Ethan's presence, if only because Ethan's support guaranteed that Scarlett and Grace enjoyed a comfortable life. In a private and heartfelt moment, Ethan asked Scarlett to marry him during a cozy, candlelit dinner at his estate, while Grace peacefully slept in the nursery upstairs. He knelt down, presenting a modest ring. Tears filled Scarlett's eyes as she recalled all the heartache that led to this moment. Here she stood, before a man who had demonstrated steadfast kindness, loyalty, and respect. She accepted without a moment's pause. Their engagement was kept under wraps for some time, disclosed solely to close friends and family. When the news emerged, it was met with surprisingly minimal scandal. At that point, Scarlett had established herself as a respected philanthropist, while Ethan had become a nearly legendary figure in the realm of compassionate capitalism. Their union represented more than mere romance. It embodied the victory of decency over betrayal and resilience over heartbreak. On a sunny afternoon, the couple exchanged vows in an intimate garden ceremony at Victoria Moreau's estate. Grace took on the role of a flower girl, delicately scattering rose petals along an aisle adorned with cherished friends and family. Jonathan stood at the back, quietly observing the ceremony. He had arrived to offer his blessing and support for Grace on a day that would define her family's future. He departed shortly thereafter, but not before offering a respectful nod to Ethan and whispering to Scarlett, "I'm genuinely happy for you." Scarlett's hand gripped Ethan's firmly, both recognizing the complex emotions that life brings. Ultimately, the heartbreak guided her to a realm of authentic love, appreciation, and meaning. We appreciate your presence as we navigate this poignant tale of aspiration, treachery, and final salvation. If the drama of a millionaire showcasing his mistress, followed by the startling entrance of his pregnant wife, and the surprising alliances and personal confrontations resonated with you, kindly express your support. If this story captivated you, please hit that like button. Share it with friends who appreciate real-life drama filled with emotional twists. Be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay updated on all our upcoming stories. Every story we present delves into the intricacies of human connections, providing both cautionary insights and glimpses of optimism. Your involvement enables us to expand and keep delivering these captivating narratives. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more engaging dramas.